Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first educational career program of the spring semester, setting yourself up for success in the spring semester. We have attendees both in person and online, so I just wanted to cover a couple of ground rules. If you are in person and you have a question, please speak up so that our microphone can pick up on the sound. And if you are online, you can use the chat or the Q&A feature. And I, as kind of a back-end event facilitator, will try to troubleshoot any issues or respond and relay questions to John, our presenter. So without any further delay, I will hand it over to John to introduce himself and get started with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you, those of you who are online and those in person, for showing up today. I appreciate your attendance. I am John Charles. I am a career advisor. I work with students in the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of International Service. I also am a pre-law advisor, so I do that work with students. So in setting up this event today, setting yourself up for success in the spring semester, we thought that this would be a helpful topic because, well, I don't know if you're like me, this semester it got started and it went super fast right away. I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not really sure how to stay on top of everything. So I'm going to take my own advice that I'll give to you today and try to get a handle on things. Certainly feel free, whether you're in person or online, share any questions that you have throughout the session. And especially if there's a particular task you're doing that you're trying to accomplish in the near term. I know at least one person is looking for a summer internship. Please let me know through the chat if you're looking for a full-time job after graduation, if you're applying for a fellowship, whatever it is, whatever task it is that you're trying to accomplish. All right, well, so let's get started. And what I'm going to do is, in my first slide, I'm going to talk.
It's not going.
Okay. I'm going to talk about what to do. All right. So I have a to-do list, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of to-do lists. Now, maybe it's because they never worked for me, but I have a different approach to getting a handle on all the tasks that you need to do in spring semester. Okay. And so the first recommendation I'm going to make is that you use your calendar, whether it's Google Calendar or on your iPhone or whatever particular calendar you use. I'm going to recommend an electronic version of a calendar to use in your career preparation, in your job searching. Now, why does that matter, John? I can hear you asking over the airwaves. And the reason why is it's a basic one. The problem with to-do lists is everything is equal, right? It's like, get milk, find a job, watch TV, everything has equal value. With a calendar entry, you can prioritize things. So for example, in the example that I have, we have from 2:15 to 4:15 p.m. job search, okay? So that entry in my calendar indicates to me, for those 2 hours, I have to be working on my job search. Now, it could be in a particular calendar entry. It could be that I'm doing research on a particular company or companies, or I'm doing outreach. So I'm sending messages to American University alumni, asking if they would talk to me on Zoom or by phone to give me advice about my job search or to tell me about the work that they do. So the idea is we create a calendar entry, and by doing that, we hold that time for that task. So you don't need to remember, oh, did I do that thing? No, you go to your calendar entry in those 2 hours, you do those tasks, and then you're done, and it's out of your mind, and you don't need to think about it. So that's the thinking behind the calendar entry. Okay. I want to spend just a moment talking about the resume, because really the resume is the cornerstone of any application, right? It's what we always have to submit. If you are having trouble creating a resume, what I recommend is you go to our resume templates on the Career Center website, easily reached by american.edu/career center. And then on the main page, you'll see a box that has resumes. Click on that box, and in the top right of your screen, if you're looking on a desktop or laptop, you'll see different versions of resumes. Now, the version that I've given on this screen, on this presentation, is first and second year undergraduate template. And the reason why I've included that one, I think it could be useful for anyone, regardless of where you are in school, even if you're a graduate student, because of this reason. It has a section that's called relevant courses and projects. And that's a great opportunity, whether you're a young student who hasn't had much experience and hasn't had internships, or if you're an older student or a graduate student who has, it can be a way for you to feature academic work, and that can be beneficial in impressing employers. So that's why I wanted to point to that one. That's my favorite one. I'm sure there are others that might fit for you if that one doesn't. Handshake. Raise your hand if you've heard about Handshake or used Handshake, because Handshake is the system whereby you make appointments to meet with an advisor in the Career Center, but it's so much more. It includes job listings, events that are taking place, and I'll talk a little bit more about those. So please, I want to remind you, if something comes to mind, don't hesitate to say it out loud or put it in the chat, and then I'll be able to address it. I want to make sure that we meet your needs in terms of setting yourself up for success in the spring semester. I always have to remind myself of the title. Sometimes I get tripped up on it, but setting yourself up for success. I like that. There's a lot of alliteration there. Okay, so in Handshake, if you have used Handshake, you might have noticed that there's a jobs tab. And when you look at jobs in Handshake, there is the opportunity to save a job. Now, this is a good step to take. It's important, and here's why. When you save, there's a little banner that allows you to save a job. The system learns your preferences. So the more positions you save, the better Handshake will know to give you similar positions that match your interests. So that's one thing that I'd recommend you do. Again, I want to keep this, as you can tell, it's kind of simple. I've tried to keep things simple. I'm just giving you a few tasks to focus on. And in Handshake, this is an important one. I consider Handshake the first place to go when you're searching for a job or internship. It's not the only place, but because our employers, American University employers who come to our job and internship fair, for example, they use it so extensively. And quite commonly, they will reach out directly to students if the student matches criteria needed for a position that they're hiring for. So keep that in mind, is there are people looking through Handshake who might be interested in you and your skills. LinkedIn. Okay, I could not talk about setting yourself up for success without mentioning LinkedIn. Now, there's another tool called Alumni Fire, which is also very useful. That's focused on American University alumni. And that tool is available in Handshake, and I recommend you use that. I'm going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn simply because of the sheer number of people in it. So here's what I recommend you do with LinkedIn in the near future. It would be to find the American University page, to go to the alumni tabs, and to begin searching for people that way. I have a standing offer to all students. If I'm connected to someone, I'm willing to do an introduction to that person for you. So that's a really good way of expanding your network. And I know that the word networking can be overwhelming to people. It can kind of get them nervous. again, let's simplify it. Let's make it easy. One step is to identify someone. Next step, either be introduced by me or someone else, or you can contact the person directly, and that's fine. You're allowed to do that. You can do that yourself. Now, what do we do after we've talked to people? So maybe we talk to professors, classmates, alumni. What do we do with that information? It is important to keep track. And what are you going to keep track of? Maybe facts you've learned, information that you've gathered from those discussions. So you could set up a simple spreadsheet, and in that you could talk about, you could put down the date that you spoke to somebody, and then what was the outcome of that discussion. In this example, Ms. Smile told me that hiring will pick up next month. And then again, if we go back to our calendar, we can set a reminder, contact Ms. Smile, on February 7th, because that's the next month. All right. The other thing about Handshake, and I'm sure you've noticed this, there are events, right? Events that the Career Center sponsors, events that American University offices other than the Career Center sponsor, events that are even off campus. And this is really important for you to pay attention to. Coming up are some interesting events. One of them, for those of you who do data science, on February 2nd, there's an analytics and IT career fair and networking event that's taking place. But of course, our cornerstone event for spring semester happens on Wednesday, March 29th, which I believe is the last day. Oh, no, it's the last Wednesday in March.
Yes.
Not the last day of March. And that's where many of you, whether you're looking for an internship or a job, you really want to attend that event. So I want to have you circle that. Let's put that in your calendar too. Okay, so, oh, you know what? Did I miss something? Okay. So I have an activity. I always like it. So when I do a presentation, I share information, and that can be mildly helpful to people. But I think what will really be helpful is if you leave this session today with actual, like, a plan of action, something that you know you're going to do. So if you're watching online, I encourage you to get a piece of paper if you got one handy. Now, I like the larger 8.5 by 14 legal size papers. If you don't have that size, it's okay, it'll still work. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to do a mind map. And a mind map. Has anyone heard of a mind map in here? Yeah. Have you made one before?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very simple thing. It's really just a visual display of information. The idea is, like, we're trying to brainstorm. We're trying to come up with ideas that will help you propel your search, whether it's an internship search, a job search, a fellowship application, or even a less defined goal. Maybe it's just career development, learning skills. So here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask you to follow along if you don't mind. And also, as I'm speaking, remember, think of questions that you've got, and please ask those in the chat or in person if you're here. So here's what I'm going to do with the mind map. I'm going to assume that a person is looking for a summer internship. So in the middle of my map, I'm going to have an image. And I made like a design. It's kind of like a blob, really. I'm going to call it summer internship. And please follow along. If you are looking for a summer job, you could put summer job, whatever it is you're looking for. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some lines off the side or off of the central image. And I'm gonna write down some of the key activities that will support finding a summer internship. So for example, one would be research. Research of companies, research of jobs, perhaps. Another one would be networking. Who could we network with? We could network with professors, other students, alumni, staff. There's no limit. Oh, you know another favorite one of mine? Neighbors. So back home from wherever you're from, neighbors who you know really well and who know you, or parents of friends, parents of high school classmates, friends of college classmates. That can be another category. And if you think creatively, you'll come up with a lot of different types of people. So networking could be another one, another item that I will include on here. Okay. So when we create these different things, so research, networking so far, how about skills building? So you can always develop skills. This might be getting better at Microsoft Excel, right? So if I'm going to choose that, what task can I do? Well, I could go to my Handshake account, look at LinkedIn Learning, for example, and I could do a tutorial on Excel. So that would be one example of what I write down on my mind map. Next, I'm going to go over to networking. So I talked a little bit about the different populations. So I'm going to fill that out a little bit. I'm going to put profs for one branch. I'm going to put neighbors from back home. Okay. And then who else? I guess classmates. That could be another category. So I think you begin to get the idea of how, when we create a mind map, we're putting ideas on the page with the goal of figuring out actual tasks that are going to help us to get started in whatever goal we have. All right, I'm going to take a break now, and I'm going to ask, I'll start with the audience we have here live at the Career Center, 5th floor of Butler Pavilion. Any questions about setting yourself up for success in the spring semester? Anything that you're curious about or that you're still wondering about, or maybe a question about something I touched on? Is there anything anybody has? Or maybe a question you have about your own personal goal that you have for spring. And likewise, if I could ask folks on the online to type in the chat. Any questions? Yes.
I guess for a summer internship, when should we, I guess, start applying for them? Because I know that some of them may have already done the application process, or like they're in the process.
Okay, great question. The question, in case you didn't hear it, is for a summer internship, when should we start applying? In some cases, maybe the application process is already passed, but in others, they haven't even posted a position. So here's what I'll say about application timelines. Let's say, for example, let's say there's a deadline of March 10th. If you see a position posted right now that says March 10th deadline, do you wait until March 8th to apply? I would say no. I want people to apply as soon as you can. It's always a good idea to apply as early in the process as you can. So if you're able to, I tell people in the first 24 to 48 hours of seeing a posting, try to apply. And in almost all cases, this will improve your chances of getting chosen. Now, the one exception would be federal agency positions where the deadline is the deadline, and you don't get an advantage applying earlier than the deadline. The thing about summer applications is that the deadlines run such a wide swath of calendar. You'll see some deadlines, for example, World Bank is, I believe, January 30th, and then others might not be until like late spring. So it is important to stay on top of those and see when the deadlines are, and then of course, when you hope to get your applications in. Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay, great. Anything else? Any chat items? None on the chat? Okay. So at this point, I think what I'll do, let me just review a little bit of what I've talked about, okay? So if you recall, in my slides, I talked about, let me go back here. Okay, so one of the issues we talked about early on was being overwhelmed, right? Feeling like there's too many things to do. Where do I get started? And my answer is, let's keep it simple. Let's try not to get caught up in all of the detail or in all the things we have to get done. Try to focus, and what I've proposed in this presentation is that the focus should be based on the calendar. So if you create a calendar entry for your job search tasks, my argument is that you're going to stay on track better than if you remind yourself every week, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I need to do this. Don't think that way. Focus on the calendar entries, and then when they come up, when those calendar entries pop up, when the reminders come, that's when you have to act on them in that moment, in that time span. And I guarantee you're going to be more effective that way than simply making a list of items to do.
One sec, John.
Oh, sure. Oh, look at that. Person was inside the person. Oops.
It'll have to.
Oh, it takes a little. The resume. So I talked a little bit about going to american.edu/career center, clicking on the resume tab to find templates, examples of our resumes. Another thought is this. It might be a good idea to have slightly different versions of your resume. Let's say 2 or 3, depending on what positions you're applying for. You might be applying for one type of position, let's say a research position. You might have resume A. And then another type of position that you're interested in would be more, let's say, service or customer service oriented. So you might have a slightly different version of your resume, version B for that. It takes a little bit of extra time on the front end to develop these unique resumes. But once you've done that, you don't have to worry. You just, in the moment you're applying for a position, you make the decision, for this position, I'm sending resume A. For that position, resume B. So you've done the work ahead of time. You don't need to redo any work when you apply. Remember to save positions to Handshake, and then the system, the algorithm will feed you more listings that match your interest areas. And also remember this, your Handshake profile, if fully filled out, might enable employers to find you better. I've had numerous students tell me that they got contacted directly by employers based on some information in their profile on Handshake. And then to make connections to alumni, we have Alumni Fire, which is American University alumni, and you can find the link to that in Handshake in the resources tab. And then LinkedIn, of course, is the biggest networking website. And I have an offer to introduce you to people in my network. I'm thinking primarily American University alumni. And that can be a really good way of expanding your reach and also finding people to whom you can ask questions about career matters. And then keep track of the information, right? So use a spreadsheet to put in detailed information about what you learn from these conversations that you have with people. Don't forget, March 29th, Wednesday, is the Spring Job and Internship Fair. We're very excited about this one. It appears that we're gonna have a very good turnout of employers. I would say there's a lot of pent-up demand, both on the employer side and on the candidate side, to meet in person and to be able to share information. So get that on your calendar, please. You can reach me, so my email is charles@american.edu. Also, probably a better way to reach me is on LinkedIn because I get notifications and then I'm on there a lot using the platform to help people connect with other people. That is the presentation on setting yourself up for a successful spring semester. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and contact me if you have any follow-up questions. Are there any other things, Emily, that I should address?
No.
Thank you, Emily Lalonde, for helping me today, setting this up, and have a great spring semester, everybody. Good luck.